Will democracy survive in the next couple of years?
And essentially we are the same.
And there are so many needs that Minnesota has.
What people are saying they need right now.
Access to Democracy is made possible in part by a donation from Firefly Credit Union. Firefly is the new name of U.S. Federal Credit Union, which has proudly served the financial needs of the greater Twin Cities community since 1925. At Firefly, we guide our members forward and give them the power to chase dreams by delivering the financial solutions they need to get ahead. From checking accounts to mortgages, we'll light the way. We are Firefly Credit Union, and this is life illuminated. By Thomson Reuters, providing legal professionals with intelligence, technology, and human expertise they need to find trusted answers. Thomson Reuters, the answer company. Online at thomsonreuters.com. And Dr. Charles Crutchfield of award-winning Crutchfield Dermatology in Eagan. Acknowledged as one of the nation's best physicians, a Minnesota native who trained at the Mayo Clinic, Dr. Crutchfield personally treats all patients and states that experience counts and quality matters. Crutchfield Dermatology, look good, feel great, with beautiful skin.
Welcome. Access to Democracy returns, and this is Alan Miller with you. We have a return guest who's wearing a new hat, and our former State Auditor Rebecca Otto, excuse me, who is now a renovator and a home developer of some note, and she paints, but she doesn't like it. And,
sometimes, yes.
But she's also a very good photographer.
Oh.
But since stepping down in 2019 from many years of public service, even though you're still a kid and you started when you were 9 years old, it's a new life. So how are we adjusting to the new life? And tell us some of the exciting things.
Well, you know, I've adjusted very, very well to my new life. I really thoroughly enjoyed and was honored to be able to serve the public for the number of years that I did and to do the work that I did. But it is so nice to have.
It wasn't just the auditor for the state.
No,
for several
school board
terms,
and legislature and state auditor, and I ran for governor as well. And that was another large task. But now, you know, my husband and I can spontaneously go on dates. We get to go see our son's theater productions. We've been traveling, and we've had a company for for decades, where we've done property management and development. So I've been putting some energy back there, which has been fun. It's a different kind of work. When you say
putting energy back there,
well,
you yourself are putting energy back there.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, you and Sean, your husband, built your own home. And when I say built your own home, other than pouring the foundation, you really did all the work. You're doing very much the same thing with property now.
We have a complex in downtown White Bear, so we are hiring out and working with different contractors. And we used to have our own contracting business, so we know how to do this work. And so there's some physical work we're actually doing at the complex, but we've hired out quite a bit as well. We're doing a lot of reinvestment, and it's residential. The really exciting thing that I think is sexy about the property is we've done a large solar array on both roofs, which is exciting for our tenants too, to be able to have access to solar energy. And so that's part of my time: traveling, exercising, sleeping, eating. I love cooking, and I'm making my own yogurt again. I'm doing things that I've wanted to do, seeing family, and so no, it's been a really nice adjustment. On top of the fact,
you haven't gotten out of the public life, though.
I'm out of the public life.
You're very active in some organizations.
Yes.
I know that.
Yes, I'm on three nonprofit boards, and there's 2 Minnesota nonprofit boards I'm on, and then I'm on a national one, which I travel to North Carolina for soon. And so I'm really proud of that work, and it really helps me focus back on the common good and feeding that part of myself. So yeah, I've been enjoying my freedom.
Freedom after many years,
Yes.
really.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Which had to take a toll on your marriage, even though I understand that when Sean writes, he has to be alone and writing and all.
Yes. Well, he has
who's-
time for that now, which is nice because he was always really supportive. So he's been working on his writing again, which is what we want, and we work on our buildings, and then we also carve out time for ourselves and our son and family. So it's been really nice because we've gone hard for many, many years in public life.
You are also a gangbusters photographer. I have seen some of your photography, and it really is outstanding.
Thank you.
And
It's a hobby, purely.
whatever it is, it works.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I especially enjoy
Nature shots.
That's what I enjoy is nature shots and just catching sometimes those unusual images, that you slow down and really look and gosh, there's just so much out there. Getting, the light, right, the contrasting in color and texture, and my happy place is out in nature. So that's where I sometimes play with my camera.
I happen to know that even on a winter morning such as today, you walked your dog for 3 miles around White Bear Lake today.
I did. I call it an adventure. And our dog, we've had her a little less than a year, but I promise her adventures because I have time right now. So our adventure today was to go over to White Bear and take a hike, and got to see all kinds of dogs. And she
You
just
meet many other dogs.
loved
yeah,
it. She was so excited. She's a little bit shy, but she was excited to see all the dogs along the way. So it was fun. Yeah.
Now, politics. Obviously, politics is really bizarre at the moment on a national level.
Yes.
Have you been involved in either any of the local or the national politics in the last year?
No.
No?
I'm really taking a step back. There's lots of people who are engaged and involved. I certainly pay attention. I've been listening to the impeachment hearings, and I was listening to some on the way over, but I'm really not participating in any of it right now. So.
I caught Adam Schiff's closing yesterday. I
Yeah.
thought it was brilliant.
Yeah.
I really did.
Yeah, he's very talented, and he's such a clear communicator, and this is such an important time in our history for us to really be paying attention. And I think it's hard for people to cut through sometimes their partisan leanings to just consider, and really think about where our government is, what our government's supposed to do for us, what the Constitution means. I mean, I had my whole battle with the Minnesota Constitution and trying to protect a constitutional office when the legislature had privatized it. But so I know how serious the issue is at the federal level with the potential. Well, the president was impeached, but just the hearings. And my hope is that they really listen to each other, and that the Senate's able to really take in what the information that's
We
been
will
gathered.
really find out if the Senate has a
Yeah.
conscience
Yeah.
and whether that conscience will allow them to adhere to their oath of office and the U.S. Constitution, neither of which have any significance to the president whatsoever, in my estimation, and in the estimation of a lot of people.
As a former auditor, I have to say, a 12-year state auditor, they're trying to get the Senate to allow for testifiers and to actually get documentation out of the Trump administration. Evidence is really, really important, and if there's nothing to hide, they should bring it out. And if they don't bring it out, what it does is people become suspicious of, well, what are you hiding if you're not willing to pull this, to bring it out into
It makes it a Star Chamber proceeding, a kangaroo court, but certainly an imperfect judicial. It's not actually judicial, but in a way it is judicial. It's being presided over by the Chief Judge of the United States, and certainly you would think that adhering to their oath would have some significance to these people rather than adhering to campaign finance raising.
Yeah, I hope so too.
And,
I hope so too.
We really do.
Yeah, and I hope that they all focus back on love of country rather than everything else.
Well, it's a big test. It's a
is.
big test on our republic, and it's a big test on whether we can regain a position we once had in the world, in the eyes of other countries.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or should we all start speaking Russian? I don't know. So let's talk about some of the things that are certainly focal points, not only of us, but of the nation at the moment. And back to the auditor's job, just for a second. What was the most challenging aspect of being the state auditor?
You know, I like to work hard, and I like to be busy, and I like to be challenged, and you know, I had goals every time I ran, and I achieved my goals during my terms. You know, it was, and then I had my daily work, and I had all of my board work, and I really wanted to make a difference. But I would say the legislature was the most challenging piece of the job, and making sure that you got your budget, and then when they went to privatize the office, that was the most challenging part, and I did everything I could to my best of my ability to protect that office for the people in our state going forward. We got some protections from the court. I would have liked more, but that was probably it was very difficult. But you know, I'm proud of the work that I did there, and it's such an important office because you're there to make sure that people can trust their government. And I was around someone the other day who said, well, can we ever trust our government? And I said, we better be able to trust our government. I've had more than one person.
I don't think we can trust this government.
Well, and that's the problem.
That's the real problem. How much more damage can be done?
That's right.
In almost 5 years, really.
But you know, it's transparency is required of our government, and I don't care if it's federal or state. And you're not supposed to be able to hide things. You need to be able, you have to follow the laws and rules. Nobody should be above the law. And we have our courts there to kind of protect us. They're one of the branches of government. I attempted to, use that part of our government during the law change that occurred for the office. Right now, the courts are involved in the proposed polymet mining project. I'm interested in it because I serve on the Minnesota Center for Environmental Advocacy. But I also, as a state auditor, kept blowing the whistle around my concerns with copper nickel mining if it were to start in this state, and have we protected ourselves financially if there's ever a major disaster or cleanup costs that weren't covered by their deposit. So there's some irregularities that occurred in the permitting process for the polymet project.
And that's just coming to light now.
Yeah, and thankful the courts are there, and there are several cases in the courts right now with the proposed polymet project.
We also have to protect the boundary waters.
That's right.
Above all else.
That's
I mean,
right.
It's one of the most pristine areas in the world, and certainly in this country.
It's a treasure, and you don't get those things back once they're destroyed. So that's the Twin Metals project that is starting to move forward. But the polymet project is the closest to moving forward. And there's questions around the water permit, there's questions around the dam design. So there's several different pieces in the courts, and I'm thankful the courts are taking a look at some irregularities that occurred in the process, and people should pay attention.
And we've had pipeline problems. We've had a few where corporations and or big business want to put their interests first.
Right, but our government is supposed to put our interests always first and foremost, and sometimes industry's hand gets a little heavy, and it should never be heavy. We rely on our government to protect our interests first, and I really believe that the DNR, our Minnesota DNR, they're required to both promote mining and to regulate mining. That's a conflict. We need to take those two pieces apart, and promotion should go into deed and regulation should stay with DNR. We have these things that are imperfect in our government that we need to address, and I'm hoping that we'll have leaders that will actually do that.
Now, I know one of the things that was very important to you is global warming, climate change. And as we look around the world right now, I mean, from the fires in Australia to the floods in Europe to South America, which is enduring really horrendous flooding, to the fact that they are deforesting in South America, another pristine area. And so where are you in terms of being concerned with that? And what do you see?
I'm deeply concerned. We don't have a lot of time to waste. We need bold leadership, and that's at the state and the federal level. The kids are asking us to do this, and right now in the position that I'm in, I mean, my husband and I drive electric cars, we've got a wind generator, we've got solar panels, we've got geothermal heating, we're trying to do our piece, we've tried to educate others and help teach others.
Definitely the minority, however, of people.
Yeah, but in our buildings in downtown White Bear, we put up that big solar array, told a neighbor about it, he's put panels up as well. We have to keep talking to each other and having these conversations, and anyone who asks us about the panels, I'm like, look, it's a great thing to do. There's some good policies being passed within government that will help incentivize, the changeover away from fossil fuels into these renewable energy sources. But we don't have a lot of time. And as you know, I ran for governor, and I had this really awesome plan called the Minnesota Powered Plan, and it was really about moving aggressively to renewables and away from fossil fuels.
Solar and wind.
Solar,
and
wind.
of course, we have a president who says that wind power causes cancer. So,
Well,
and there will be people that will believe that, unfortunately.
Well, yeah. I'm going to leave that all right there. We've had a generator in our backyard for 26 years, and we're okay. But we need bold leadership, and there's great economic opportunity in the change that we can go through, and the infrastructure changes we can do, and the new jobs that we can create. And we have talked long enough about this and set up enough panels to talk about this. We actually need to do now. And if whoever is leading at this point can actually get behind it and really figure out and dig in terms of what government can do, because government has a role in this. Private sector has a role in it. Individuals have a role in it. So it's
Public-private partnership and some of these things would be wonderful.
And there's some of that
as
too.
As we sit here in this studio,
Yeah.
this is a result of a public-private partnership.
Right.
And,
Yes.
And it has worked really well for more than 10 years.
Yes. So there's some really good things happening out there, but our president is not helping the situation. I don't know what Governor Walz has done at this point. I think he set up a panel, and he might have a person who's going to, head up climate change. But we need to stop talking, and we need to start doing it.
Yeah, he stepped into a few problems right off the bat also, in terms of some of our licensing and other things. So that's
But it takes time to get going, and
Yeah.
I'm hoping that he is able to, and people can encourage him to really take some bold steps on behalf of the next generation.
single-payer, Medicare for all, or what?
I had proposed a plan it was the Healthy Minnesota Plan, but it really, at the end of the day, what we need to do is make sure people have access to health care. And I can actually say that I'm on the MnShare healthcare exchange system. We picked a plan. We reduced our costs by about 80% for healthcare, which was extraordinary. And I don't know if enough people will take advantage of that healthcare exchange. It seems a little bit complicated, but it's actually pretty amazing, and we're really happy with the plan that we have. Short of that, though, we still have work to do on healthcare, and of course, presidential candidates are talking about that right now. There's a couple of different scenarios that they've put out, but what I would say is got to do something, because I really feel like we're still behind in that area as a country. And I just heard a program the other day on, I think it was National Public Radio, where we just don't have it right yet in healthcare. Some doctors are still paid based on how many procedures they do, and hospitals are still a little messed up too. They're all acting like they're for-profit rather than nonprofit. And so
and pharmaceuticals, which are a disaster
Exactly.
in this country.
And I really think it's going to take federal action. I mean, it really does. And so the presidential race does matter. And so people should keep an eye on that. And I guess on the Republican side, they either vote for Trump. On the Democratic side right now, we've got a whole array of people. And in Minnesota, we can vote in the primary. So that's an exciting thing for us this year.
Being able to vote in the primary has raised a lot of questions in the state. People don't want to identify with a party.
I know.
And
Well, when you vote, my understanding right now is if we go and vote in the primary, right now the way the law is written, others might find out the party that we, affiliated with in that vote, and some people are uncomfortable with that. Now, I've heard on the news that there are those that are saying, let's get this changed, let's make it so that not anybody can see this, that it's limited.
just an article today in the papers about that,
Yeah.
in which the Republicans are against changing it, and apparently, and the Democrats want to change it. And I originally come from New York, where we always identified party.
And there's other states that do that. And
Yeah.
in fact, you have to declare. I think Minnesotans tend to, some people like to protect their privacy. They don't want people to know. So I'm hoping that the legislature will be able to deal with it in short order to, I think, protect privacy. If it makes people hesitant to vote, then I think they should.
Mandated public service for people who get a free ride to college. Or let's go back a step and say, should there be free college? And if so, to what extent? 2 years, 4 years, et cetera. And I know you had a platform on that when you ran.
Yeah.
So
Here's what I know. I had a Master's of Education. I taught in the public schools. I myself was lucky enough to get an undergraduate degree and a master's. I know education is a really important, game-changing thing for people, and having access to it is very important. Now, what's interesting is I serve on the Century College Foundation Board, and Century College is a great institution. A third of our students are adults. In community colleges, they don't pick and choose who they take everybody who wants to come. And in the foundation, what we do is we work to provide scholarships to students to help make sure that they can actually go to school. And I'll tell you, the students, they end up being EMTs and nurses, and they go into these really, really important fields that we count on people being in those fields. So is it important to make sure that people can access school later in life, early in life? Absolutely. At Century, there's a lot of students that come from high school, go there for a couple of years, get some of their credits out of the way, much more affordable, and then they go on to a 4-year.
so should that 2 years be free?
It'd be really good if we can figure it out, because we don't want to leave anybody behind. And some would say, well, if you have income or your parents have enough that you can afford it, you should probably pay. So that might be a way to structure it. But let's not leave people behind, because there's many groups that have been left behind for generations.
Well, we're coming to a point in time where they say in 20 years we won't have plumbers and electricians.
That's it.
And that's the 2-year college is perfect for that. The technical
Absolutely.
aspect,
Yes.
that's not going to go away. We're
Right.
always going to need people
Yeah.
to do that type of work.
And it's been hard to attract people to that type of work. That's another issue that not everyone talks about. And so it's finding people who find that kind of work exciting, and then making sure that they can get the training and education they need to do that work. Because I know that I appreciate when we hire contractors for our buildings or our home, or people who work on my car. You value people who know what they're doing. It's a big deal, right?
I have a son-in-law who's an electrician,
Yeah.
and his son only wants to become an electrician.
Nice. Wow.
At the moment, he's a very good football player, but maybe after the football, but he wants to be an electrician.
And we need electricians.
Yeah,
We
and we
need
need
electricians.
plumbers, and we need
Yes.
all of the people
Absolutely.
for home care and those other things.
Yes.
If you get 2 years free,
Mm-hmm.
should you have to do some mandatory public service?
Well, I think it depends on what you're talking about, because there are those forgiveness programs when you go on and do certain types of things. Teaching, I think teaching would be a really, that's a good area to do that in, because teachers, it's expensive to go to school, and then they don't make that much, and it's hard for them to pay off their debt. In fact, some of them aren't going to be able to pay off their student debt. And so I think there's fields where we should absolutely say you can work this off if you work in certain areas, for government, and that's very appropriate.
In a
So-
way, we do that with military service, because people who go into military service can come out and get a GI program of sorts. And
We've done it
I
in the
would
past,
like to
and it
see,
works.
Yeah, I would like to see it expanded,
Right.
really right across the board.
Right.
And I think we could do that. We have the capacity to do it.
Well, you know what it's called? You're investing in human capital, and an educated populace helps you have a vibrant economy. It's not rocket science. It's basic. It's really basic. In other countries that have invested in their educational systems, they're taking off. They know that it's the right thing to invest in. So, while there's lots of things that put pressure on budgets, if we could get healthcare under control, that would help a whole lot. And then, that educational piece, investing in your human capital for those next generation of jobs, that's really important too. Some families can pay, but there's going to be people that can't and that don't have the resources to do it.
$15 minimum wage?
Well, people need to be able to make a living and to be, to pay bills. Right now, housing is so expensive. Apartments are expensive because the market has been so tight and vacancy rates have been low. So there's a lot of stresses out there, and we certainly don't want homeless folks. In Minnesota, we have a homeless population, but we don't want to add to it.
It's hard to believe that in this state we have as large a homeless population as we have.
And we've made progress over time, and there's reasons why people are homeless. But frankly, everybody knows it's not a secret we don't have enough housing. We just don't have it, and we don't have enough affordable housing. And government has assisted there in the past, and they need to continue to assist, and they won't be able to keep up with the need. It just is what's going on.
What about Trump's tax cuts?
Let's talk about the weather. Look, you know what? If you can cut taxes, and there's times where it's really appropriate to cut taxes.
Who benefited though?
Well, not many people. Right, so that's policy, and enough people elected him, and what will be really interesting, in my opinion, is to see, do people re-elect him again or not? Do the policies work for them? Did their lives improve?
Actually, not enough people elected him, but the Electoral College elected him, and we won't get into that, but...
the Russians. But
yeah.
Anyway, weather. Well, that's another very deep concern of many people is... Russian interference in our elections. That's, boy, I'm old enough to remember.
Or other country interference, perhaps
yeah.
China interference in our election. And,
we don't want that.
No, we certainly don't.
And I hope, So anyway, I'm hoping that people continue to work on making sure that we don't have outside interference
Have
in our
you yet
elections.
endorsed any of the candidates for, Democratic candidates for president?
No, and I do not plan on doing that.
You don't plan on it, but you will support the candidate of choice.
Of course, I will. And I'm watching, and it's fascinating. And you know what? I know how much work it is. I know how much work it was to run for state auditor, to run for governor, to run for president is a whole different level. The sacrifice you make, the time you put in, and the stresses that go with it. And it's got to take 10 years off your life easily. So bless all of their hearts for running.
Well, you can see the difference in Obama when he was first elected and when he left.
Every president, you watch them, and they
watch them age.
Oh gosh, because
I'm not sure this one will.
Well,
but
but it takes years off your life. It's a huge sacrifice. Yeah.
We've been talking with the former state auditor Rebecca Otto. Always a pleasure to pick your brain and to have you come in and share with us. Regards home to your screenwriter, novelist, award-winning writer, husband. Scientist, etc.
Yeah.
And come back again, and let's do this soon.
I would love to. Thanks for having me on, Alan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.